We're so happy to be here with you today. My name is Weston Lucas. I'm the associate principal here at Islander Middle School.
Kathy Shaner, social studies here at the middle school.
And we're going to talk to you today about practices that we refer to as lifting the veil and how to succeed. And really, it's the idea that students know what the standard is to which they're working and what are the steps to get to where they're going in that process. So we're going to talk to you today about making grades simpler and easier to understand. The movement from 4, 3, 2, 1. You've heard today how grades are a communication tool. Grades are how we let the next year's teacher know how a student is progressing toward a standard, but also how we let families know. And we know that under a G4E model, it's much more clear. We want our students to be able to come home and share what they're learning and where they are in the learning progression.
We also want to be very transparent with kids because kids deserve to know from start to finish where they're going, how to get there, and how to know when they got there, as well as parents need to know how to help them get there. So lifting that veil and showing them how to do that, it's all part of the process. And so we want to make sure from start to finish, they're in on the plan too.
I want to start with a personal story from when I was a teacher. I was a classroom teacher for 10 years, most of that at an amazing school called Islander Middle School. Before I came into my admin role, and actually Kathy was my partner teacher for many years, so this is fun. But I want to reflect on a time when I was very early in my teaching career. I was teaching at a high school and I was an English teacher, so I had handed back a set of essays. I handed back a student their essay and the letter B was written big on the top and circled, and I had used a rubric to grade that essay and to assign that student the grade of B. They approached me after class and they, very kindly said, "Mr. Lucas, I just need you to know I don't get B's." And they had some ideas about how they might improve their score, because as was referenced earlier, the idea was to just accumulate those points, and to get to that A, they needed to get all the points that they could. So the student brainstormed, "Mr. Lucas, can I go back and revise all the marks that you made on my essay?" And I said, I taught it. We had the assessment. You should have had it at that point. So no, the grade is what it is. And the student said, "Well, can I start again then? Can I rewrite? Instead of just fixing, can I go back and write on a different topic? Because I think I can take your feedback and I can write, a better essay." And I said, "Well, no, the grade is what it is because I taught it. You had the opportunity to have it. We've assessed. This is what the grade is." And then the student said, "Well, Mr. Lucas, what if I was to draw a map of the town in the story and I was to build all the details in?" And I said, "That sounds like a great idea. You can have points for that." And the idea in sharing that story is that I wasn't clear on the standard with students. The veil was in place. They didn't see what the standard I was assessing was. And so the student was trying to articulate ways that they could show what they know. And I wasn't allowing that to happen. I had very good intentions as a teacher in teaching them that material, but I missed the mark in allowing them to show me what they know and to help to revise their work. And as Kathy said, and we'll focus on this today, students deserve an opportunity to know where we're going, where they are, and have a say in how they're going to get there. And that's really going to be thematic. And if I reflect on that incident, had the students known what the standard was, and had I been open to ideas from students on how to get to that standard, I think it would have been a whole different learning outcome in that instance.
And did you hear in that conversation how that student kind of naturally knew how to improve and kind of fit the process that we're talking about? So I want to ask you to think about a trip that you've taken. I took a trip to Scotland with a carload of about 5 people, and I had this experience riding in a car, and the only person who knew the trip and the itinerary and the only person with the map was my husband. And so I didn't know where we were going. I didn't know how we were getting there. And I didn't know how to know when we had arrived. All I knew was to look out the window and count sheep. So it was a very frustrating trip. So have you ever been like that? Well, some of the students in our classrooms in the past have been in this very position. And lifting the veil is all about giving the students the map. So let's take a look at it. If we give the students the map and we teach them how to use it, here are the benefits. Students prosper. They have positive engagement. They have lower anxiety. They feel empowered. They have growth awareness. They just feel like they're part of the trip, part of a positive journey. Have you ever been on a trip like that where, or been in a car with kids in the back that are just really crazy? And it's because they're not involved in the trip. So one of the things I want to just kind of really draw an analogy for is how to use the unit roadmap or rubrics. That's how we lift the veil. All students in all classes will be given either a scale or a rubric, and we will be looking at these with every unit. Students will be shown a standard that they're trying to meet, the ones that either, national standards, state standards, and how to use to know where they're going. So they know what the learning is supposed to cover, the content, know what their beginning skills are. They can point, hey, we've gotten to this point in the learning. Yay, let's celebrate. All right. Or they can, their skills that they know that they're taking, like, hey, I'm above this. I'm on another route, or wow, I need to take another route to get where I'm going.
Yeah, and your student might refer to rubrics and conversations at home as proficiency scales. So you might hear them using that phrase, and that's really all about lifting the veil so that students know where we're going in this process of learning and where they are along that route.
Yes. So I've had two really grateful learners who really blossomed under this G4E. I too, like some of the presenters you've already heard, I've waited 40 years for this total transformation of grading. I, as a student first, as a parent of 3 boys, and now as an educator. But I had these two particular kids in the last couple of years. I had one who was very forgetful, disengaged student, and he was really struggling until I gave him the map, until I gave him the rubric and taught him especially how to use it, how to read the map, the rubric, especially for him, using his strengths. And delightfully, he also became very engaged afterwards. He was able to go, okay, I know how to do this now. And what it did for him was he actually became a leader in the class. He actually became the one who instructed others how to find their way in the content and the assignment. I had another student who was a perfectionist, someone who was paralyzed with anxiety, someone who was struggling with the big picture. If they got a big project, it was like, oh no. And the whole thing that was holding this person back was making the grade and being late. The whole idea of being late and the timeless, and that her processing took time. I'm one of those too. Processing for me takes time. Anxiety and feeling of no control is at the base of most perfectionism. And this student needed to hold the map, needed to have a voice in the timeline, and needed to know how long it was going to take her to get it done. I lifted the veil for her by teaching her to read the rubrics using her strength. So she was a creative writer, and she needed to be able to use creative writing in her social studies subject. And so I let her go I encouraged her to go that route. And once she knew the path was clear, none of these roadblocks were in her way. So a G4E room allows for those choices, allows for rubrics to give room. Here's what she said. Thank you for being understanding of my needs, letting me work at my own pace, and comforting me sometimes. This confirmed to me that I was teaching the whole child, not just the content.
G4E really is about empowering students in taking leadership in their learning. It gives them the tools, the understanding of the standards and the progression of learning so that they can make their own path. And our job as educators is to support them in that path. And so we hope that we've shared that with you today. I would ask, as we transition to our next speaker, that you think about a time or an assignment where, had you known what the outcome was, or had you known the route, you may have proposed an alternate idea of how to get there and how to show your learning best, to show that you knew the content and that there were ways to demonstrate that.
And maybe through your own strengths. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.